The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Yeah, when life gets tough, when life gets tough, or you're struggling, all you gotta do is lean on some Swedish twins, okay? We learned that at a very young age. And it's time for Pettersson to do the same. Let's do this, Locked On Canucks.
The following is a hockey podcast out.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks, and also a Canucks writer currently with Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into today's episode, we got to thank you for tuning into Locked On Canucks. You know why? Because it's your Canucks every damn day. Part of that Locked On Podcast Network, doing the most for people across the world. And for our show, if you haven't done so already, make sure you go like, subscribe for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. I also got to let you know today's episode is brought to you by none other than FanDuel. Make every moment more. FanDuel's hooking up customers all summer long with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Elias Pettersson, okay? He's what now? 5-6 seasons in his NHL career, but still a relatively young man, at least below the average age of an NHLer. So still a long story to be written for Elias Pettersson. And like every story of a great NHL player, it's never straightforward, and the same has been the case with Elias Pettersson. But today, what we want to talk about is how Elias Pettersson can learn from the Sedin twins, okay? The Sedin twins, obviously, in the organization, the two biggest icons in franchise history. And I think if Pettersson's going to take the next level in his game, there are some lessons he could take away from the Sedin twins. So we'll touch on that in this episode and a whole lot more. But before we do all of that, let me introduce my co-host. Some call him the Findu Harry Potter, Kyle Bowen.
Hey, man. What's the spell? Levendosa. What's the thing before Levendosa?
Wingardium Leviosa.
There you go. I've never watched more than 2 Harry Potter movies in my life. That being said, I did start reading a book while I was at my sister's, and it was good. Good writing. Anyways, Kyle Bound, Trevor Beggs doing this, and us talking about your Vancouver Canucks here at the Don't Doze Art Lab. Yeah, the place that looks after that West Coast bias. Man, oh man, speaking of which, here we are, man. Talking about Pettersson. I'm not going to call this guy public enemy number one. He isn't, even though, yes, if he was like 80% of himself in the playoffs, he probably do beat Edmonton. Again, though, he's not public enemy number one, okay? Not on this program. We're looking towards the future, okay? We're looking at the return of one of the best hockey players in the world playing for one of the best hockey teams in the world, okay? That's your Vancouver Canucks. And we think that he can get there with the guidance of Swedish twins, okay? Straight up. Nothing better than a pair of Swedish twins who, unlike any other duo in sport, got the job done and excelled and were the most valuable players and did it in such a unorthodox way in a hockey hotbed when they weren't supposed to do it in a hockey hotbed, okay? For real. There's a long period of time there where Henrik and Daniel weren't really special. They were heavily scrutinized, and what did they do? They beat the odds and became, again, some of the best players in hockey. Now, for Pettersson, he's a lot younger, straight up, than what Henrik and Daniel were when they started, getting their ish together on the ice. So there is a recipe here for Henrik and Daniel to be more a part of Pettersson's development. And if that's the case, I do believe something special can happen. Now, I want to start things off by talking about something that the Discord was talking about, okay? Because I asked the question in the Discord, which, happens to be in the link in the bio below. I asked the question, how does Henrik and Daniel help Pettersson? I think Andrew mentioned something very, very strong. Probably the point of the year, for real. And it had to do with strength, okay? Being stronger along the boards. Is there any way where Henrik and Daniel can, teach a thing or two to Elias Pettersson in that regard? Because if there's one fault on that guy, it's that he falls down a lot along the boards.
Yeah, and when he does, it's not a very good look, is it, Kyle? Now, I think there is something to be said there because the Sedins were, I think for casual fans, if you call the Sedins tough, they would have kind of laughed at you, right? Because these are guys that don't often hit. but they're tough in terms of the punishment they took in the corners. And Canuck fans know that. Everydayers know that. If you're a first-time listener, you probably know that too. So I think there is something to be said there. I'm not sure exactly how they teach it necessarily, but I think it is a matter of probably just being stronger on your skates in the corners. Now, I think with Pettersson, one of the reasons he falls down a lot is because he's always trying to make that play, right? He is, playing on instinct. He talks about it. He plays his best when he's playing on instinct. And I think when he has the puck on his stick, he's often, looking over his shoulder, trying to make the next great play. And I think if he gets checked quickly enough, he often falls down in those situations where the Sedins, the advantage they had that unfortunately Pettersson doesn't have, and we'll get to this too, is that they had each other, right? They almost like telepathically knew where each other were on the ice. So they can make that play without getting knocked over. They're playing on instinct, but their instincts were almost always right. So again, I'm not sure how necessarily you teach that, except for, Pettersson's been in the NHL for 6 years. I think he knows about toughness. So I don't know. Do you have a theory on how?
No. He needs to get stronger. It's honestly, Pettersson for the last couple of years, there's these workout videos prior to the season starting. This guy's doing all these things and he's getting stronger, all that jazz. But maybe Henrik and Daniel know the recipe to be NHL strong as pretty thin individuals. You know what I'm saying? Because these guys weren't ever the most jacked, but they were at the top of the class when it came to fitness levels. And I'm not saying that Pettersson's out of shape. That's the furthest thing from the truth. I just wonder if they have a certain plan that they implemented and it worked, because those guys, they got knocked over. Don't get me wrong, but they rarely got knocked over. They kept plays alive, and you bring things up. You bring up the whole instinctual thing with Pettersson, right? And when he's not instinctual, he's kind of invisible because he's not confident. And it's hard to be confident when you're being knocked over a lot. It's hard to be instinctful when you're on the ice a lot. You know what I'm saying? So I feel as if the ability for him to just stay on his feet is something that, it can be beneficial, obviously, due to those reasons, right? You're more confident when you're on your feet. You're able to, keep your fluidity going, aka your instinctiveness going. If, you're on your feet with the puck on your stick. Henrik and Daniel, teach him how to do that. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? How many squats are you doing? Look at what just happened. Prospect camp, okay? 18, 19, 20-year-olds, world-class athletes just did the grouse grind. And what did they say about Henrik and Daniel? They're out of this world. So they have the sauce. And I wonder if there's a way where Pettersson and Daniel head over to wherever Pettersson trains in Sweden and they run like a 2-week boot camp prior to the season starting. I'm not even joking, bro. I'm not even joking, because isn't that why you have those guys in the fold? Yeah, I know it's for development and this whole Abbotsford thing, and those guys are teaching the young guys. Dude, let's not waste Henrik and Daniel with some 4th and 5th round picks this season, okay? Let's get Pettersson learning from the 2 best Canucks of all time, because if I'm not mistaken, there's a world where they speak the same language, and something's got to give.
Yeah, it's funny. You're talking about them training together this offseason, running Pettersson through the boot camp. I mean, I think you heard the story, right? Daniel Sedin did the gross grind like 11 times in one day.
What?
Something insane like that. Yeah, there's a story out there that Daniel Sedin did the gross grind 11 times in one day.
Okay, his quads must be huge. Like, Pettersson needs big quads, man. Bro, if Pettersson goes out this summer and says, you know what, I'm going to have the biggest quads in all of hockey, I promise you I'm going to do squats every day.
Yeah, man. Maybe we got to do a squat challenge. We did a push-up challenge prior to the season starting, and look what happened. The Canucks way above expectations. We've said it before, you want your Canucks to succeed, you got to put in the work by maybe not necessarily working out, but at least by being a good person. And Kyle and I decided to work out. I need that push again, bro, because I'm barely working out right now. But,
dad bod right here. It's all good, man. You're a dad too, though.
Dad bod alert.
You got to be who you are.
Hey, but the Sedins were parents too, and look at that. Look how fit they are, man. So I got no excuse. I mean, I just wonder if, again, maybe Pettersson runs the gross grind with Daniel Sedin. Maybe that could do something for him. I mean, look, the Sedins just beat, again, guys half their age. They beat all of them at development camp in terms of the gross grind. I mean, I'd love to see the Sedins stack up against some of the Canucks on this team in terms of the gross grind. I think that'd be a fascinating thing. But I think on the other side, I do want to talk a bit more about chemistry and line mates a bit because I think that's a big thing with the Sedins. Obviously had each other. Pettersson doesn't even have one twin. But I think let's touch on more of that on the other side. Anything else you want to say about the Sedins in terms of helping Pettersson with the strength?
It's just the whole boot camp thing, Like, I'm not even joking. Like, make it happen. I know it's very, very impossible for us to close our eyes and envision that Henrik and Daniel would be running a effing boot camp with Elias Pettersson, right? But I don't know. I feel as if it would be somewhat of a full circle moment if that started to happen, because it's a little ironic how the year after Henrik and Daniel left us, or the season after Henrik and Daniel left us, that's when Pettersson came to the fold. So there was never really a connection on the ice with him. And I don't want to say Pettersson is desperate for help, because he's not. He's still a really great player. I mean, 13 months ago, he's one of the best players in the league. He's good. He's great. He's phenomenal. But I feel as an organization, those three people linking up and taking their relationships to the next level could pay huge dividends for, again, your Vancouver Canucks.
It sure could. And again, we're going to talk more about how the Sedins can help Pettersson reach that next level. And Kyle, I kind of agree with you. Enough of these trading the 4th and 5th round picks. Let's make Pettersson a Hart Trophy candidate again.
Exactly.
There we go. That's the energy, man. And that's what this team needs if they're going to win the cup. Because, hey, depth matters, but you know what matters more than depth? It's star power, okay? Speaking of star power, you're listening to Locked On Canucks, hosted by me, Trevor Beggs, that guy, Cal Bowen. More Sedins and Pettersson talk on the other side after we shout out our friends over at FanDuel. You know the deal, okay? I love sports, and I love them so much that I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports just aren't sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. Oh, yeah. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Now let's look at these odds, okay? Canada and Argentina, okay? Everyone who wasn't a soccer fan in Canada is now saying they're a soccer fan because Canada has a chance to go to the finals tonight. And even if they predictably lose to Argentina, they'll still get a chance to play for third place. But I'm looking at some of the goal-scoring props here. Messi, of course, minus 110 to score a goal. But how about this? The Maritime Messi. You hear about this? The Maritime Messi. Jacob Schaffelberg, who scored in the game against, oh my God, who did Canada just beat?
Venezuela.
Ecuador. Venezuela, thank you.
Holy ish, bro.
Oh, man. Sorry, it was Argentina. Anyways,
it's okay.
Figuring it out slowly. But anyways, Maritime Messi scored. He's plus 750 to score again in this game. But so if you want to place a bet on that, you can do so on FanDuel. But whatever you're betting on, make sure you go do it on FanDuel. Head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
Boom, bam.
Man, we're going to have a lot of fun tonight in Vancouver, all my real fans.
People, we doing this, and that's talking about your Vancouver Canucks. And apparently confusing the people, okay? Zarfi with the comments saying that this title has me confused. The title of this video is what? Pettersson's World, how the Sedins and the Canucks can change it or change everything. Yeah, it may sound a little confusing to you, but hey, this is the way I look at it, okay? I think Pettersson's World over the last 13 months, 14 months, he's been spending a lot of time with Elliot Friedman, you know what I'm saying? And I think it's time for the Canucks to step in and just kind of give him guidance, okay? For real. Be leaders. Tell him who he needs to be hanging out with. And in my opinion, it needs to just be Henrik and Daniel this summer, okay? Another comment that we have to get to is from Callum, okay? Callum shouting out Team Canada, Soccer Canada in the comments, but he's also saying that it's his birthday, okay? So happy birthday, Callum Sandu, one of the first fans of Locked On Canucks. I'm pretty sure you put us on. We wouldn't be here without Callum, so happy birthday. I think it's his 27th birthday, so live it up, do your thing, and one love. And let's keep talking about Henrik and Daniel, man. Again, joining forces with the Canucks a couple years ago in a leadership role. Their first move was horrible, right? Encouraging Jim Benning to get OEL over here in Vancouver. Man, oh man, that was a bad move. But they can make a big amends if, again, they get in the way here, okay? They intervene and they teach Pettersson the ways. Because you're talking about a sniper in Daniel, a playmaker in Henrik. I don't know how much skill they got to teach a guy like Pettersson. I still believe that Pettersson at his best is still a better player than those two individually speaking. But there's more to give there. There's more of a relationship there. And on top of, giving them fitness lessons or giving him fitness lessons and a regimen when it comes to working out, there's other things that can happen here. And I think Trevor Beggs has a couple of ideas.
Yeah, well, I think, first and foremost, I want to say that I think now is the perfect time and a time where I think Pettersson maybe needs the Sedins the most. And It's interesting, right? Because you got a couple guys in their 40s, Pettersson 25, but again, those guys have been through similar things in this market. And the big difference to me between the Sedins and Pettersson is really their stories to this point of their careers, right? The Sedins kind of had their breakout at age 26, right? Pettersson's 25 years old right now, and he's already got 6 seasons under his belt. Now, the Sedins spent years in this market being chastised. Neil McRae, rest in peace, but he spent so much time saying the Sedin sisters on the radio. Like you could not get away with that now in 2023, 24. I mean, the Sedins went through so much vitriol in this market. And what did they do? They kept working. They kept putting in the work. And they eventually ended up being two of the best players of the 21st century in the NHL. And Pettersson, on the other hand, again, roaring start to his career, wins the Calder, looks unbeatable for the first 2 NHL seasons. And now he's hit kind of a bit of a blip. And now he's been chastised in this market. So he's going through things now the Sedins went through throughout the first 3-4 years of their careers. So I think the big thing for Pettersson, he's one of the most skilled players in the world. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But between the ears, that's a different beast. And I think the Sedins can help Pettersson, be stronger between the ears. Because to me, that's one of the biggest flaws of Pettersson right now. And you can see him getting frustrated on the ice. You never saw the Sedins do that. You see him being a bit standoffish with the media sometimes, or not giving great answers. And the Sedins always face the music, even during the bad times. So I do think the Sedins, can really instill some wisdom on Pettersson to just be, a more mentally strong individual.
No, 100%. And, you brought up this whole media thing and Elias Pettersson and him being a little standoffish, him not even being available during the regular season for most of these post-game interviews, for real. Like, you barely see this guy talk in front of the media. And I get it, right? Like, it was the huge contract dispute, and it gets to him and all that jazz, and it's stressful and it's annoying. And like, imagine having to like play a game and not having a contract signed, and maybe you don't get any points or your team loses. Then you have to talk to Trevor Beggs like 20 minutes after, you're annoyed. I get it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Henrik and Daniel went up to Elias Pettersson. And I know that Pettersson's not the captain, but they advise him to be more of a companion to the media. Be there more, be more present, answer more questions. And I know that sounds crazy, but maybe in doing so, I don't want to say Pettersson's insecure, because I don't think that's the case, but he kind of enables more chaos to ensue by being less present. You know what I'm saying? Like, make it seem like you don't give a F, because right now it's pretty obvious that you do, and it's because he does, and he's not showing up. So I wonder if Henrik advises him to just be that guy. And let's be real, you're on the West Coast, the best coast of Canada. You're making $11.6 million. I think it's safe to say that after every game, even in the regular season, it's best that this guy answers questions and he's a bit of a translator between the team and the fans every game. It's that time for him to mature in his career. And I know there was a lot of angst between him and the media, and it kind of started a couple of years ago when they started making fun of him for wearing Balenciaga t-shirts and whatnot and posting photos and whatnot on Instagram. But I think he has to let go of maybe the past trauma with the media and start a new one ASAP, because if you think it's tough now, like, the expectations are on now. You know what I'm saying? Like, Pettersson has never walked into a training camp like this in the NHL, because now, again, it's real. The Canucks are back, and if you thought it was crazy last year, you're fooling yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because the only other comparable season was, after they finished the bubble playoffs, going into that North Division season. And again, different atmosphere with no fans in the building. Now you're playing in front of almost 20,000 people a night. This team, I don't think that people consider them to be a flash in the pan, although maybe we'll get to that in another episode, because the Canucks, I think, are still disrespected by a lot of the odds makers out there. But you're right. He's going to face more pressure than he's ever faced before, especially with this contract, with the Stanley Cup aspirations. So, I think there's two big things that we talked about, right? The Sedins can, I think, instill some wisdom on Pettersson to train more physically. I mean, again, two of the most fit guys, not just in the NHL, but I think just in the world, man. The Sedins are crazy. Yeah. And I think mentally between the ears too, just what they've gone through in this market, how they handled it with such grace. I think those are two things that Pettersson can learn from now. The last thing I really want to touch on here with how the Sedins can instill some wisdom on Pettersson is, and this is a tough one because the Sedins had such intrinsic chemistry, but I think Pettersson finding chemistry with someone. I mean, the Sedins did a great job together of always elevating their line mates. And what do we keep talking about in this market? Like, you need another top 6 winger for Pettersson, which is true. But to an extent, Pettersson also has to elevate his line mates. And I think the one unfair advantage is that the Sedins had each other. Pettersson doesn't even have another Sedin. Never mind, that third
Jake
guy to
DeBrusk.
his line.
Yeah.
Jake DeBrusk.
No, I know what you're
good
saying.
guy DeBrusk, apparently, though. Good in the room. I think he said so himself, which is maybe it's a red flag, but who knows? I do wonder, Kyle, and maybe I'm beating a dead horse here because I brought it up all throughout last summer. In terms of having another elite line mate for Elias Pettersson, I still wonder if Brock Besser is that guy. Because I think, to me, he's still the most skilled winger on this team. I think pairing skill with skill makes some sense. You got a guy like DeBrusk now who could slide in on that line, or you could put maybe another complimentary, hardworking guy like a Sherwood or a Hyden up there, or a Höglander. But I do wonder if, I know Tocchet loves Besser and Miller together, and rightfully so. But I do wonder, especially if Pettersson maybe has a slow start, if they, try to, elevate him by putting Brock Besser on that line again. Because I think Pettersson does need an elite winger to play with to get the most out of him, right? Daniel and Henrik got each other. Pettersson, he needs an elite winger, in my opinion.
Maybe it's Lekaramaki, man. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? I get what you're saying, though. Like, that is a definite advantage, right? When Henrik and Daniel were doing their thing, they needed a third guy, whereas Pettersson, you could still argue, needs a second guy. And if they think they got his second guy, it's still going to be a work in progress because it's Jake DeBrusk. And like, has Jake DeBrusk ever even been like a 65-point guy, a 60-point guy consistently? No, he hasn't. So it's a lot. It's a work in progress. Now let's get to some comments on Pettersson before we get to even some more comments on the other side. This whole Pettersson thing is it's a phenomenal conversation, man. And again, Henrik and Daniel and Elias Pettersson, I think there's a way for this to be a match made in heaven, or in Sweden, or in Vancouver, okay? Infamous with a good comment. Will it be disappointing if Pettersson doesn't reach 100 points this season? Look, Henrik and Daniel Sedin, they did their thing. Henrik Sedin, one of the best statistical seasons in Canucks history, if not the best statistical season in Canucks history, way back when in like 2010 or whatever the year was. How does it relate to Pettersson being a consistent 100-point guy? Sure, why not? Okay, Pettersson put up 110 points, put up 120 points, put up 130 points. That's all cool and all, but if you're not good in the playoffs, it doesn't matter, okay? The standard is different. And on that note, I must add this. I'm completely content with Pettersson being a 90-point guy consistently and saving some juice for the playoffs, all while returning to form in the sense of being a phenomenal two-way player. Because what we saw with Pettersson and his lack of confidence offensively led him to be less dynamic defensively as well. And that's a problem. He needs to return to being like a Selke type of guy. Like, the back check needs to be extremely evident. The effort needs to be extremely evident. You know what I'm saying? Shift in and shift out. But you're talking about Pettersson being an instinctual player. And man, in the second half of the season, there was nothing instinctual about his game.
No, I completely agree. And to answer Anthemus's question about will it be disappointing if Pettersson doesn't hit 100 points, again, shout out to everyone commenting. We'll get to some more comments on the other side in a second. It won't be disappointing for me because, I know more NHL players are hitting 100 points, but still only 9 guys recorded 100 points last season. Only 7 Canucks ever have recorded 100 points in the season, with one of them being Elias Pettersson. He could, if he does it 100 points, whether it's next season or another time in his NHL career, only one Canuck has recorded more than 100-point seasons, and that's Pavel Bure. So 100 points, and I know scoring's up. It's a really high bar to hit, but I think for the most part, even if Pettersson has like 80 to 90 points, it's just that consistency. All right. In terms of, that strong defensive game we saw in past years, in terms of, ramping up towards the playoffs instead of going quiet into the playoffs. I think that's an important thing for Pettersson too. He can have a slow start, but if he has a slow finish, I'm going to be more worried about that. So no, it won't be disappointing if he doesn't hit 100 points. It's more about the consistency and showing progression as the season goes on.
Oh, 100. Yeah, 100%, man. And like, such a phenomenal stat line that Trevor Beggs just poured out when it came to the Canucks history and 100-point scorers, because he's saying that Bure's only got to do it twice. And Elias Pettersson was on pace to be the first Canuck to do it 2 times in a row, right? Get 100 points back to back, but he failed to do that this season after going completely cold in the second half of the season. And again, Bure's done it twice. He's the only guy who's done it twice ever for the Canucks. And JT Miller has one 100-point season and one 99-point season. So let's end this section off with this. And I wasn't joking when I said the Vancouver Canucks are one of the best teams in hockey. Like, That's not me with the West Coast bias. That's me understanding that they have a Vezina-nominated goalie. They have a Norris Trophy winner. And they may have 2 100-point centermen who happen to be at their best, very good two-way players as well. That's dangerous. How many teams have that? Also, do we need these guys to be a 100-point scorers? No, we don't. We just need them to be really, really good hockey players. Look at the Florida Panthers. I'm pretty sure Matthew Tkachuk had like 80-something points this year. You know what I'm saying? Pettersson, his return to form via the help of Henrik and Daniel, man, oh man, that could be a match made in heaven. Pettersson, stop hanging out with Elliot Friedman and hang out with Henrik and Daniel Sedin. And now you're fixed. Begsy, who we shouting out?
Shouting out my brother Kyle Bowen. Go check out KyleBowen.com. Recording from the Don't Doze Art Lab. Go to don'tdoze.com as well to see what they're doing in terms of helping out that West Coast bias. We'll be back on the other side here on Locked On Canucks.
People, we back doing this, and that's, dreaming big, man. Dreaming big, assuming the best, assuming the most about your Vancouver Canucks. We got to be doing this, man. We got to be doing this. I don't want to say it's grim because it's not grim. It's the sun is shining. It's hot outside. But this rhetoric on Elias Pettersson, I would say it's warranted based on what he did in the playoffs and a little bit of recency bias. But I need people to remember that there's a lot to be positive about. There's a lot to look forward to, and there's a recipe for Pettersson finding his game ASAP. And Swedish meatballs, right? Every day, eat your Swedish meatballs, man. Dude, speaking of meatballs, man, Trevor Beggs, we've been friends for 31 and a half years. Not really, but it feels like that in my heart, right? Like we've known each other our whole lives. I still haven't been invited to eat some meatloaf, man. You know what I'm saying? Still haven't got that. Let's eat some meatloaf, okay? Come on.
Yeah, we'll eat some meat together, buddy. It's funny because we were talking about trying to meet up in person to plan what's next for us outside of Locked On Canucks. Might be a little extra programming coming your way with Begsy and Bowen, and maybe a little bit more unfiltered than we could do so for the people here on Locked On Canucks. So maybe you got to come over for dinner, hang out with the fam, and then when the kids go to bed, you and I we'll get brainstorming, okay, with some vegetables
and meatloaf. For real.
And
anyways,
meatloaf,
let's get to some comments. Begsy favorite some for me, and we'll get going on this. I'll start with this one though. Jay, man, saying my ears. I know one of those sound bites that we play, bro. It's so distorted. I don't know what I'm doing there, but again, we got to get back on the production wagon, okay? For real, we got to do it. So I apologize for your ears. That being said, we have to mesh in some reggaeton every once in a while, or some reggae with some hard punk drums for some reason, and we'll clear that out in a couple of episodes, okay? How about this comment from Uncommon Sense, okay? Lakaramaki saying is too petite, I'm sorry, for the NHL right now. Man, is there a 0% chance that Lakaramaki makes the team next year? Is there any way he beats out Höglander for a top 6 spot? Because I feel as if that's the only way he makes the team, right?
I want to say it's possible, but I don't think it's likely. Yeah, it's so hard to know, right? The guy's played 6 games in North America, and he was fine, right? A golden assist down in Abbotsford. Yeah, I'm certainly not penciling him into a roster spot, but we've seen what this guy can do against people in his age group, and he's got a ton of skill. But yeah, I have the same concerns about him being maybe too small to handle the grinds of the NHL. And I mean, I know he went through so much in terms of injuries and mono in his draft +1 season. But one of the biggest knocks on his game is that he was a perimeter player, and he did rectify that in Sweden last year, but it's a different ball game when you're in the AHL and the NHL. So I'm not penciling him in. I'd like to see him more in Abbotsford first.
How about this? Okay. So isn't it so important for this organization to see what this guy has in the NHL level ASAP? Let's say there's instinctual levels of skill there. Let's say there's a bad mother effer there, and he just gets it. Isn't there a chance for them to want to see that based on the fact that Brock Besser doesn't have a contract post this season? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying, buddy. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, man. Because last time I checked, again, the root word for wingers is win. You need wingers to win, man. Just the truth, man.
And again, I'm really curious about who Pettersson plays the next year. I know Alvin alluded to being DeBrusk. I expect it to be DeBrusk Pettersson. I expect it to be Miller and Besser, but I still think deep down Besser and Pettersson together, who again, back in 2018-19, were one of the best duos in hockey as youngsters in the NHL. Now you get these guys in their primes. I think they could do some special stuff together, but who knows, man? Maybe that's a hill. I'm prepared to die on that hill, man. Pettersson and Besser together. Let's go, buddy. In terms of other things I'm curious about in the world, I'm curious about this comment from Bob Bluger. What do you think is in Kyle's mug? I think
Black
it's
coffee,
chocolate.
man.
I thought it was gonna be chocolate Bacardi, man. I think you have a problem.
No chocolate Bacardi. I actually had beverages for three days in a row. Like, I didn't get drunk or nothing, but I think I had like 2 drinks on Friday, 1 drink on Saturday. No, 2 drinks on Saturday, then another 2 drinks on Sunday while I was DJing. And yeah, and I know the sun is shining. It's July. I'm trying to live my life, but it's pretty early, and black coffee gets the job done right now. Okay. You know what though? When I'm on vacation though, and I'm going on vacation in 40 days here, I'm definitely having that 9:30 beer, man, every day. Look at this comment from Red Risotto, okay? Remember Peter Forsberg? This guy lived on cinnamon buns, and his thighs were like tree trunks. You had to drag him down. Back in the day, and I continue to do this too, right? I sometimes connect Forsberg and Pettersson together. I do. Because sometimes I see Pettersson's mean streak. He does it sometimes. He just lays the body. He does his thing. He puts his body on the line, and I'm kind of like, damn, what if this guy was 25 pounds heavier?
No, it's a fair comment, and I'm going to show this comment from Anthemous as well. He mentions Daniel is 6'1", 190, Pettersson 6'2", 176. He needs to put on some weight. Daniel was stockier in 2 metrics. Now, I'll say I think in terms of the best weight stats out there is usually elite prospects. So they have Pettersson at 185, and that kind of lines up with coaching staff saying he's bulked up in recent season. But still, 6'2", 185 versus 6'1", 190. I think there's an argument that Pettersson could probably use a bit more muscle, especially in his lower legs. Okay. Or lower body. I mean, calves are a sexy thing, but I think overall, he use some more muscle in his lower body.
Just eat more, man. Right now, you know what? Here's the thing, right? Since December, I've eaten more than I've ever eaten in my life. Just the truth. I'm 198 right now. I'm 198. Should Pettersson be training with me? Because I feel like I've gained 20 pounds in the last 6 months.
Damn.
There you go. Man.
Not
Screw
bad,
Henrik
bro.
Daniel. Workout with Kyle Bound. Did I tell you that I had a dream about Pettersson a couple days ago?
No. Tell me about it, man. Let's get out of here.
Okay, well, we'll end the show off on this dream. And this was the truth, okay? This was the truth. It happened. And I love this dream. I was in the dream. I was moving and grooving in the dream. I was waking up halfway through the dream, and I just shut my eyes so I could get back to the dream because it was pretty cool, okay? We were at an Oilers game. We weren't there together. But I was there to troll. It was like a replay of the Stanley Cup Finals or whatever. It was like Game 7. For some reason, it was in Edmonton. I was just there to hate, and I just wanted the Oilers to lose so bad. And for some reason, Pettersson was walking around the concourse too. And then he asked me to get him a beer, and I got him a beer. And the Oilers lost, and we weren't celebrating or anything like that, but we were soaking it all in. We liked it, okay? We enjoyed it. Straight up. Speaking of which, going into next season, I wonder how much of a mean streak, maybe not physically, but I wonder how much of a mean streak Pettersson has towards the NHL, towards some of his doubters, towards the city of Vancouver, towards some of the spectators. I wonder if he brings some of this, oh, you think I suck attitude into next season, and it unlocks a different beast. Because there's more language out there than ever about this guy being overrated and, more specifically speaking, very overpaid. Because 11.6, bro, you want to talk about having to show up after every game to talk to the media? How about just show up to every game? Because 11.6 is unorthodox. That's unordinary. And you have to be an ordinary player. For real. You have to be exceptional. It's like, Pettersson, you thought it was hard before. It's about to get way harder because 11.6 is, that's out of this world.
That's a chunk of change, buddy. Maybe one day you and I will make $11.60 here. All locked on Canucks. Pettersson, he's got to bring it. I believe in Petey. Okay, I'm ending on this note. I believe in Pettersson to be the best version of himself next season. And again, I do think the Canucks are in a cup window right now of 3 years. Got to believe, baby. Let's dream, and we'll keep dreaming big here on Locked On Canucks. But for today, we got to get out of here. Shout out to the everydayers, occasional listeners, first-time listeners, new subscribers, and those of you who joined us on the live show on YouTube. Wherever you're listening, whenever you're listening, we appreciate you for tuning in to Locked On Canucks. More deep dives, more theories, more dive down the rabbit hole here as we go throughout July. Again, we're every day, your Canucks every day throughout July, baby. get the sun, get the shades on, go out in the sunshine, and tune in to Locked On Canucks. Kyle, maybe we'll answer Mother Knucker's question before we get out of here. How tall are you, buddy?
Yeah, everyone hit the like button. It really helps us out a lot. Do your thing. Subscribe to the channel. And yeah, Mother Knucker 22, who's going to be on the show in a couple days. We're going to get organized here. One of our first fans on Fan Friday. Should we call it Fan Friday? Who knows? Maybe. Who knows?
Go,
Anyways,
man.
he's asking how tall I am. I'm like, what, 5'11", or some call it 5'12", right? AKA just at 6. You know what I'm saying? I'm like there. 5'11" or 5'12" or 6. I know 5'12" doesn't exist, but that's what I'm trying to say. At 31 and a half years old. Anyways, hit the like button. If this video gets 47,000 likes, bro, Pettersson's putting up a Selke-like year next season, okay? For real. Anyways, Locked On Canucks at the Don't Doze Art Lab. Peace!